The discrepancy that breaks the case open is a photograph. Specifically, it is a 0.3-meter resolution commercial satellite image of the IRGC Regional Logistics Coordination Compound at grid reference 27.84 North, 56.12 East, acquired by a commercial imaging constellation at 10:17 a.m. on March 9th, 11 days into Epic Fury's execution cycle. The image shows the compound's vehicle staging area, its main administrative building, its fuel storage berm, and its covered equipment bays. All structures are intact. No fire damage. No roof collapse. No blast craters in the parking surface. The fuel berm is undisturbed. 7 vehicles are visible in the staging area, 2 of them heavy logistics trucks consistent with active operational use. The battle damage assessment for Wave 2, filed at 6:15 a.m. on March 3rd, assessed this compound as destroyed, Category 1. Category 1 is the highest damage category in the Joint Targeting Framework. It means the target has been rendered permanently inoperable, all primary functions have ceased, and no restrike is warranted or required. The Wave 2 strike against this compound was executed by 2 FA-18Es, carrying 4 GBU, 31 Joint Direct Attack munitions at 1:44 a.m. on March 3rd. The post-strike imagery used to generate the BDA was a synthetic aperture radar pass acquired at 3:22 a.m., 2 hours after the strike. The BDA narrative described 2 confirmed impact craters in the vehicle staging area, structural collapse of the main administrative building, and evidence of fuel berm breach with secondary fire. The commercial satellite image acquired at 10:17 a.m. on March 9th, 6 days after the BDA was filed, shows a compound that was either not struck at all or was struck and repaired to full operational functionality in under 72 hours. The second possibility is not operationally credible. IRGC logistics compounds do not rebuild from Category 1 damage in 72 hours. The first possibility is not supposed to be possible. A BDA confirming Category 1 destruction against a target that was not destroyed is not an assessment error. It is a fabrication. The commercial image reaches the CAOC's Intelligence Watch cell at 2:30 p.m. on March 9th through a commercial imagery subscription service that the cell uses to supplement classified collection. The watch officer who receives it runs the grid reference against the active target database. The compound at 27.84 North, 56.12 East is listed as destroyed, Category 1 closed, no restrike required. The watch officer runs it against the Wave 2 BDA archive. She reads the BDA narrative. She looks at the commercial image. She flags the discrepancy to the Intelligence Division Chief at 2:34 p.m. with a single notation: imagery inconsistent with BDA findings. Please review. The Intelligence Division Chief reviews the flag at 2:41 p.m. He does not immediately understand what he is looking at, because what he is looking at is not supposed to be possible within the target assessment architecture he manages. The BDA process for an Epic Fury target strike follows a defined chain. Post-strike imagery is collected by a classified collection asset, processed by the Theater Imagery Exploitation Cell, and the exploitation product is assessed by a trained BDA analyst in the Joint Targeting Cell, before a final assessment is entered into the target database. The chain has multiple touchpoints. A Category 1 assessment requires imagery exploitation findings of a specific standard and a BDA narrative that documents the damage indicators supporting the assessment. The chain should not be capable of producing a Category 1 assessment for a compound that was not struck. He pulls the full BDA package for the compound: the imagery exploitation product, the BDA narrative, the analyst account that entered the assessment, and the timestamp chain from image collection through final entry. He reads it twice. Everything in the package is internally consistent. The exploitation product describes the right damage indicators. The BDA narrative cites the right compound identification data. The analyst account's entry is authenticated. The timestamp chain is clean. The BDA package for a destroyed compound looks exactly like every legitimate BDA package for a destroyed compound, except that the compound is not destroyed. The difference between a correctly fabricated false BDA and a legitimate BDA is not visible within the BDA package itself. It is only visible when you hold the BDA narrative against imagery of the target that was not acquired by the same person who wrote the narrative. He calls the Joint Targeting Cell's security officer at 2:55 p.m. The Joint Targeting Cell at Al Udeid Air Base is the organizational unit responsible for all target assessment, damage evaluation, and restrike recommendation functions supporting Epic Fury's targeting cycle. It operates around the clock in 3 shifts, staffed by a combination of active duty intelligence officers, civilian intelligence analysts, and contractor support personnel. Its output, the BDA database that determines which targets are closed, which require restrike, and which are still active, is the operational document that drives every targeting decision in the campaign. When the BDA database says a target is destroyed, that target is no longer allocated strike resources. When the BDA database says a target is active, it remains on the strike list. The BDA database is the targeting campaign's institutional memory, and the targeting campaign's effectiveness is a direct function of that memory's accuracy. Every day that a false assessment stands uncorrected is a day that an operational IRGC facility is invisible to the campaign. The analyst understood this. He did not fabricate assessments randomly. He selected targets whose continued operation he assessed as having the most value to IRGC operational continuity during a sustained air campaign. A selection criterion that required either direct handler guidance about IRGC priorities or a level of operational intelligence knowledge that his role in the targeting cell gave him access to in legitimate form. The handlers used his legitimate access to make his illegitimate selections more precise. The Joint Targeting Cell's security officer begins pulling user account activity logs for the BDA database at 3:10 p.m. She starts with the analyst account that entered the compound's Category 1 assessment. The account belongs to a senior intelligence analyst assigned to the cell's BDA production team on a 120-day temporary duty rotation. He has been in this role for 67 days. His production record shows 114 completed BDA assessments during his rotation, a volume consistent with the workload tempo of an experienced analyst during a sustained air campaign. His assessments cover 114 targets across 8 wave packages. The security officer begins cross-referencing his assessments against available imagery for the assessed targets. She works through the night. By 6 a.m. the following morning, she has cross-referenced 31 of the 114 assessments against either commercial imagery, overhead intelligence collection, or signals intelligence indicators that provide independent evidence about the assessed target's post-strike status. Of the 31 assessments she has been able to cross-reference, 27 are consistent with the available independent evidence. 4 are not. 4 BDA assessments in which the analyst recorded Category 1 destruction or Category 2, severe damage against targets, for which independent evidence indicates either no strike effect or substantially less damage than assessed. 4 targets currently closed in the BDA database, no restrike allocated, no further collection tasked, that appear from independent evidence to be partially or fully operational. 4 IRGC facilities that Epic Fury's targeting architecture believes are destroyed, that are not destroyed. The 4 facilities are the Logistics Coordination Compound at 27.84 North, 56.12 East, an IRGC unmanned aerial vehicle staging facility near Bandar Lenga, a command relay node in the Zagros foothills used for IRGC missile coordination, and a fuel and ammunition forward storage point 80 kilometers north of Bandar Abbas. The last 3 were assessed as Category 1 by the analyst on March 4th, March 6th, and March 7th, respectively. All 4 are closed in the target database. None of them should be. By 8:15 a.m., the security officer has assembled a preliminary findings package for the CAOC Director of Intelligence. The package identifies 4 anomalous assessments, documents the independent evidence inconsistent with each assessment, and notes that all 4 anomalous assessments share one characteristic beyond their inconsistency with ground truth. All 4 were entered by the same analyst account during the same analyst's shift periods, and all 4 involve IRGC facilities that the intelligence community has previously assessed as high value to IRGC operational continuity during a sustained air campaign. The 4 facilities are not random selections from the target database. They are specific, operationally critical nodes whose continued operation is of significant value to the IRGC's ability to sustain its retaliatory strike capacity against U.S. and Gulf partner targets during Epic Fury. The analyst is not alerted. He arrives for his shift at 8 a.m. and takes his position at the BDA workstation without any indication that the previous 17 hours of investigation have been focused on his account's output. He is under discrete physical observation from 8:05 a.m. onward. His workstation activity is being monitored in real time by the cell's system administrator from a separate terminal. The administrator has been given a single instruction: watch every keystroke and call immediately if the analyst enters a damage category assessment that is higher than Category 3 on any Wave 6 target. Category 3 is light damage. Category 1 and 2 are the categories that close targets. The administrator settles in at her terminal. She knows what she is looking for. She does not know how long it will take to see it. She sees it at 9:34 a.m. The analyst accesses the pending assessment queue for Wave 6 and works through it in a pattern consistent with normal production. 17 assessments in 97 minutes, a pace and sequence that is unremarkable. The 18th target in the queue is an IRGC surface-to-air missile battery that was struck in Wave 6's final package. The analyst pulls up the imagery exploitation product for this target. The exploitation product was generated by the Theater Imagery Exploitation Cell from a classified collection pass taken 90 minutes after the strike. The exploitation product's own damage indicator table rates the strike effect as Category 4, negligible effect. 2 near-miss craters, 1 partially damaged support building with intact roof, no evidence of primary system destruction. The SAM battery's radar antenna is visible and undamaged in the post-strike imagery. The system is operational. The analyst reviews the exploitation product for 23 seconds. He enters Category 1, destroyed. The administrator calls the security officer at 9:34 a.m. The security officer calls the Director of Intelligence at 9:35 a.m. The arrest team, which has been standing by in a corridor outside the JTC since 9 a.m., receives the go signal at 9:40 a.m. The analyst is taken into custody at 9:41 a.m. He is mid-sentence in a routine conversation with a colleague at the adjacent workstation when the agents approach from behind his left shoulder. He does not complete the sentence. He does not look surprised. His composure, the specific quality of composure that is different from innocence, is noted in the arrest report by one of the 2 agents who conduct the arrest in the single observation that he uses to close his description of the moment. Subject appeared to have been expecting this. The investigation of his personal devices, conducted under emergency access authorization, produces findings within 3 hours. His government-issued laptop carries no anomalous files. His personal phone, which he was not supposed to have in the classified workspace and which was recovered from a jacket pocket during the initial custody search, carries an encrypted messaging application operating on a peer-to-peer architecture. The application's message history has been wiped within the last 4 hours. The deletion timestamp recovered from the phone's carrier log is 5:47 a.m., 2 hours before his shift start. He wiped the device before he came to work. The wipe was pre-planned. He knew that the day's shift might be his last. or he knew that operational discipline required regular message sanitization, or both. The application's metadata cache, which the deletion process did not reach, contains 11 contact thread headers without message content. Thread header timestamps show regular communication activity over the preceding 34 days, beginning approximately 33 days after his arrival in the cell, consistent with a contact and activation pattern in which his handlers observed his access level and performance before beginning operational tasking. The financial investigation runs in parallel. His domestic bank records are clean. The forensic accountant assigned to the case at 10:30 a.m. traces supplemental income through a routing chain using 3 international intermediaries and a digital currency conversion step designed to defeat automated transaction monitoring. The chain terminates in a domestic cash transfer received and spent without leaving a traceable destination. Total transferred $83,000 over 9 months, beginning 5 months before his current TDY rotation, while he was still in his previous assignment. He was recruited before he arrived at the joint targeting cell. His placement in the cell was the objective of the recruitment. The handlers knew the cell's function, the TDY rotation structure, and the analyst position's access level before they made contact. The operation was built around placing an asset in exactly this role, and the asset was in place for 67 days before the commercial satellite image of a compound that should have been destroyed exposed the first false assessment. The operational remediation required by the discovery is the most comprehensive targeting database audit conducted in Epic Fury's operational period. All 114 of the analyst's BDA assessments are placed under review status simultaneously at 10 a.m. on March 10th. The target database is locked against further entries until the review is complete, a decision that pauses the BDA production pipeline for 31 hours and means that strike aircraft completing overnight missions return to an unupdated database until the audit team works through the backlog. The 31-hour pause is not costless. The Wave 7 strike package is delayed by 6 hours while the audit team works through the highest priority targets first, ensuring that no restrike allocation from that wave is based on a potentially false assessment. The strike planning cell works around the pause by building the Wave 7 package from targets whose assessments predate the analyst's rotation. Targets assessed before he arrived in the cell that carry no contamination risk. 3 targets from this clean pool are substituted for 3 planned targets whose status is under review. The substitutions are executed without informing the air wing of the reason for the last-minute changes, which are briefed as routine targeting priority adjustments. The review is conducted by a 4-analyst team, cross-referencing each of the 114 assessments against every available independent collection source: imagery, signals intelligence, human intelligence reporting, and pattern of life indicators from commercial data sources. The review takes 31 hours, covers all 114, and produces findings that are simultaneously reassuring and sobering. Of the 114 assessments, the 4 previously identified fabrications are confirmed. 3 additional assessments are identified as possibly understated. The assessed damage may be less severe than recorded, though the independent evidence for these 3 is ambiguous enough that fabrication cannot be distinguished from analytical error. The remaining 107 assessments are confirmed as consistent with available independent evidence. The analyst did not corrupt his entire production record. He corrupted a specific, targeted subset of it, the assessments that mattered most to IRGC operational continuity, while maintaining the accuracy of the surrounding assessments that made his corrupted ones harder to find. The 107 clean assessments were not incidental to the operation. They were its camouflage. A BDA analyst whose entire production record is fabricated is detectable through statistical anomaly alone. The targets he assessed would all look intact in post-campaign review. An analyst whose production record is 94% accurate and 6% fabricated looks like an analyst who makes occasional errors which every analyst does, and the errors are visible only when an independent source directly contradicts them. The commercial satellite image was that source. Without it, the 4 fabrications might have remained closed in the database until a post-campaign review identified the intact structures as anomalies, months after the operational windows they protected had been fully exploited. 7 assessments requiring remediation. 4 confirmed fabrications, 3 possible understatements. 7 targets whose status in the campaign's database does not correctly reflect their operational condition. The 4 confirmed fabrications are immediately reopened in the target database and assigned to the active strike queue. 3 of the 4 are struck in Wave 7, 18 hours after the review's completion. The 4th, the IRGC command relay node in the Zagros foothills, is struck in Wave 8 after a revised approach geometry is developed that accounts for the node's continued operation and the defensive preparations its operators may have made during the 11 days it was incorrectly assessed as destroyed. The IRGC missile coordination relay node's continued operation during those 11 days represents the most significant operational consequence of the fabricated BDA program. The node's function, coordinating launch timing and targeting data for IRGC ballistic missile units operating in its sector, was active during a period when Epic Fury's targeting architecture believed it had been destroyed. The IRGC missile launches on March 4th, March 6th, and March 8th that targeted U.S. and Allied assets in the Arabian Sea and Persian Gulf were coordinated through a network that included this node. The post-campaign analysis will spend considerable time examining whether the effectiveness of those launches, the precision of their timing, the coordination between multiple firing units, was materially supported by a relay node that should not have been operational. The analysis is inconclusive. The node was operational. The launches were coordinated. The correlation is documented without being confirmed as causal. The classified after-action documentation records the following. 67 days the analyst was in position before his first confirmed fabricated assessment. 34 days of active handler communication preceding the arrest, beginning 33 days after his arrival. 4 confirmed BDA fabrications covering 4 operationally critical IRGC facilities. 3 possible understatements requiring further analysis. 11 days. The IRGC command relay node operated while assessed as destroyed. 1 commercial satellite image acquired at 10:17 a.m. on March 9th that was inconsistent with a BDA filed at 6:15 a.m. on March 3rd. 1 watch officer who read both and wrote 4 words. Imagery inconsistent with BDA. 1 category. 1 assessment entered at 9:34 a.m. on a target. The exploitation product rated Category 4, entered under active workstation observation, caught in real time. 23 seconds of review before the false entry. $83,000 over 9 months. 11 contact thread headers in an application cache that the deletion process did not reach. 1 analyst taken into custody at 9:41 a.m. who did not look surprised. The BDA database is not just an operational record. It is the mechanism by which a campaign decides what no longer requires attention and what still does. A false entry in that database is not a single falsified document. It is a removal of a target from the campaign's attention for as long as the false entry stands uncorrected. A protected window of continued operation for the facility, whose destruction was recorded rather than achieved. The analyst opened 11 of those windows across 4 targets. He kept them open for between 3 and 11 days before the commercial image closed the first one. The 3 that had not yet been found when he was arrested were found within 17 hours. The window he opened at 9:34 a.m. on Wave 6's SAM battery was closed at 9:41 a.m., 7 minutes after it was created, by a system administrator watching a screen in real time who understood in 4 seconds what a Category 1 entry on a Category 4 target meant. The campaign's integrity is not maintained by the system. It is maintained by the people who read what the system produces and ask whether it matches what they can see.